It's not just about should I invest in Twitter media network, but the question is how should I do to maximize ROI?
I think a lot of the discussion both last year at Cannes and this year has been around retail media and RMNs. And so I kind of just like want to break that down and talk about the future of that. And I think just Mike, since we were starting with you, like tell us a little bit about like, I guess why MMM is important. Why does the math really matter here?
The math matters. I interviewed 200 marketers before I was studying Prescient, and I wanted to get to the why of like what their why was when they go to work. I have student loans. I want to buy a house. I want to get married. A family member's sick. And I show up to work every single day and I'm making a bet. I'm making a bet on the channels I spend on. There's going to be some sort of performance that's associated to that. Now, if you're making a bet of spending on TV and podcasts, influencers, YouTube, these channels are very challenging to measure. You can't really click a TV, but if you've ever seen a TV ad and then you went to Warby Parker's retail location and purchased a set of glasses, these marketers just wanted to show up to work and feel confident that the decisions they're going to make, where they're spending, are going to allow them to do their job really well. And so fundamentally, George Box is a very famous statistician. He says all models are wrong, but some are useful, right? And so how do you make a useful model that's going to allow a marketer to feel confident where there's essentially just making bets every day?
I guess more anecdotally, because you talk to so many marketers, you see so many teams, how are they allocating spend pre-MMM? Is it like, I want to invest a bit one day and then change my marketing mix? Like, how's it going on now?
It's a great question. So you have post-purchase surveys. There's all sorts of forms of measurement, right? There's no source of truth. You have post-purchase surveys. How did you hear about us? You have multi-touch attribution. You have incrementality holdout results. And so there's just a variety of different ways to measure what that performance was. The unique part about an MMM is it's always on, it's always learning. It knows what you want it to go do next. It knows what your goal is, and it knows why you were wrong and what you need to go do next. And so as brands, a lot of the brands, they start Meta, Google, traditionally easier channels to measure. But as they start to go more top of funnel, as they start to go into D2C, Amazon, or even to retail, the problem gets inherently more challenging. And that's when they start to, our clients will start to implement and adopt MMMs.
Yeah, and it's not just like channel diversity problem. It's also like sales channel diversity. So how do you attribute credit for my meta spend at retail?
100%. We are seeing in the data, we're analyzing about $4 billion of ad spend currently today. And there's also, what about just the seasonality of the business, right? People are going to sell more ice cream because it's summertime, but they're also going to sell more ice cream when, I don't know if anybody played Little League, but like first day of Little League, you walk up and you go to the ice cream shop after you do a little parade down the street. And so how does just things that are truly organic align to the diversification of their media mixes as well?
Lucia and Danilo, do you guys use MMM in your workflows?
So I'm 5 minutes into Deliveroo. And do the early discovery phase, but I mean, I can answer it more from a historical career perspective. Before Deliveroo, I was at WPP, working with big brands and helping shape how they would spend their media, or helping our colleagues kind of shape how they would manage their media. And it's basically the most validated type methodology for measurements and for optimization. The biggest challenge for most agencies and brands is that it's a very cumbersome process because it's a lot of data and quite manual in some ways. So to see more innovative solutions leveraging trusted methodologies, but with the speed of technology and data and AI is amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're solving for that.
Yeah, traditionally, an MMM would run once a year. So in 1962, a guy named James McCarvey created this model. They're saying, well, hey, I'm spending on billboard, TV, catalogs, newspaper. This was pre-internet. And then people are going to walk inside of a store and they're going to buy a water bottle of those nice jeans that Shib had purchased over there for Paris. Well, was it the TV, the radio, the catalog, or the newspaper? And so they brought a bunch of people together and says, give as much data as I can. So transactional sales by day, how many people walked past that billboard, how many people had exposure to, the catalog that was sent to their house, and it would run once a year. Why couldn't an MMM run every single day? Why couldn't it do it at an individual campaign level? And why couldn't you retrain the model every single day? And so when we first conducted our research, 2020, it was for Cardi B, actually, in a very derogatory song. I'm sure you guys know, but it forced us to keep up with the velocity of the music industry, which is streams across a whole bunch of different platforms. There's no Google Analytics behind Spotify, so you're not getting the last click. And there was these little kids that were recording their parents' reactions on TikTok to what their parents saw, like their reaction when they heard the song. They knew there was a halo effect from that, and so we were able to say every 4.63 times a kid did that on TikTok, the halo effect was one stream on Spotify. Long-winded answer of saying is like, just because something is legacy doesn't mean you can't make it more real-time and more dynamic.
Yeah, I think halo effects are, everyone's talking about them. Big buzzword this year. Ken, Danilo, what about you? What's your take on MMM?
Yeah, so I'll actually add some color to what Lucia and Mike shared, because I think when I was, for example, on the P&G side, so did use MMM with different brands, but I think what's the challenge? One is clearly it's slow, so speed is not there, but then I think there are two more problems. The first one is they're expensive. The second one is you don't have granularity. Has any of you seen an MMM ever? So what you get back is, what's the ROI or the effectiveness for search, video, programmatic, social, which is great, but my point is it's not really actionable, or actionability is limited, because I really want to go down one level, which is what are the channels. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if I have a solution that could be fast, cheap or cheaper, and more granular, I think this is definitely something that will get traction with the brands.
Yeah, and so, I mean, off that, you guys, Aperium, they're a shareholder in Prescient. What other things are you guys interested in, like, in terms of investing in? What sectors of ad tech, martech do you see a lot of tailwinds? Do you see a lot of opportunity for founders to build in?
Yeah, so as I shared, Aperiam focus on martech and ad tech, and then within those broader categories, we have some specific investment teams. So we have CTV, we have retail media, we have creative tech, we have advanced analytics. One of them is measurement, and I was actually chatting earlier with Lucia why I think it's an important one. If you look at the evolution of the media ecosystem, so when I started in 2015, there were two walled gardens, which were basically Google and Facebook, those things called Facebook. Then you started to have Amazon that emerged pretty strong. Now you have Netflix, then you have all the retail media. So what I'm trying to say is, like, the thesis is my own. If you see the open internet shrinking, identity is becoming less relevant. With identity becoming less relevant, so you're basically allocating budget across different walled gardens, then the ability to allocate budget becomes the most important thing. So the ability to have measurement that feed back to the planning tool, I think that's super important. So back to your point, measurement is an important area for us. So that's why we're very happy with the treasury investment.
If I may add, and going back a little bit more in time and slightly older, there was a time that digitally you could have a very good view of your investment pre-cookie, pre-walled garden, when even the platforms would allow cookie measurement. So I was at eBay in 2010, 2012, and we had all the infrastructure ourselves technically to be able to log in every impression and then build our own measurements out of that. So we did our own post-impression incremental attribution, we did mirror analysis, all based on our own impression, and we kind of pulled in and connected the IDs of the platforms to ours, so we could look at everything from our own ID perspective. I haven't seen anything in the industry that gets close to that view of your entire $100 million spend in a year since then, because the walled gardens obviously built a business model on top of their data. Then the independent ecosystem struggled for quite a long time to find its strengths and its path. I think we have a massive opportunity, especially measurement, because now with more speed in cloud computing, with storage of data, its cost and time becoming more economical, you can really put data to work and use predictive analytics to really get a better view. So it's almost like you leapfrogging what you could do one-to-one slowly, but at scale. In the past, you can do faster nowadays if you have the right solution behind it. And I think there is a massive path forward to use that for optimization, which agencies and brands still struggle. A lot of that process is still quite manual at the moment.
Yeah, I think some of the issue is like in implementation, just like there's an education factor and it's like integrating it into the workflow. It's actually why I appreciate what you're doing, Mike, because it's like at the pace of performance marketers, like you have consistent refreshes, like there's an education factor. I think the interface is really clear to see, hey, this is what credit X spend is going to get on Y sales channel. Maybe you give us an example of like how you would go about optimizing spend for an Amazon retail, like omnichannel business.
Yeah. Great example would be Hexclad, Gordon, the Hexclad, the pen company. So it was interesting. We just started as a beta client of ours. Their CTV on Thursday nights during the football season, where everybody's sitting there chopping up watching TV, was running ads, and people were going to see those ads. They were going to look at reviews on Amazon, and then they were going to Costco to purchase. And not having, and then another example would be Beekman 182, the beauty brand. Makes a lot of sense, right? You have an influencer, and when they looked at their influencer platform, the measurement looked awful. Well, if you're an influencer, like Oren here, for an example, like if you have a revenue code or a discount link, if you don't use that, you're stuck within TikTok, you're engaged, not getting off the platform. Influence looked awful. And then we started looking at their Ulta Beauty sales. It was a 9x ROAS. It was their most performant channel. And their CMO was going to their board, and they're getting a lot of pushback on spending on influencers. And it was just a great example of like, hey, the investments that we're making, I want everybody to feel confident and is actually driving performance in a way that's not a trackable way to go do that. And so a lot of people are not clicking ads anymore. You can't click a TV. You don't click influencers, right? But you see it, it's in your mind, and then you take another action from there. And so as brands start to go more omni-channel, we just onboarded our first gaming company, and thanks to Danilo, our first airline, is like, hey, if I'm going to see an influencer, we're going to be talking about like, I don't know, Prize Picks or something like that, and you go make a new customer deposit, all right, the models are agnostic to whatever industry that, it doesn't matter, inputs and outputs, right? And whatever you're trying to measure against. And so, yeah, use cases will keep coming in.
All right, we move from MMM. Yeah, on the retail media side, I think, Lucia, I would love to hear from you. Like you're now stepping into building Deliveroo media. I know it's fresh, but like maybe give us your perspective on like how that ecosystem is evolving, and also like understand some people here might be layman's on the retail media side. Like, why is it important?
Big question. I mean, it's as consumers evolve their shopping habits, there are moments that are created in the engagement with the consumers that brands could be right along with them. There are moments which can lead to purchasing. So retail media networks are great to be at that bottom of the funnel. If you're a marketeer, you get that. So you can really easily place an offer or an ad and lead to a direct purchasing, quite targeted in a retail media network. Where I think it's very interesting is that, firstly, a lot of businesses are turning to retail media networks and expanding their business model and kind of leveraging the assets they have to also play a role in advertising. That creates more places where brands can look for to advertise, but it also creates a lot of a disconnection in terms of how their media plan evolves, because each retail media network will be in a different set of technologies, which often don't easily translate in terms of connecting the data on their end in a way that they can tell whether one business performs better than the other for them. So for a brand, is a great place to drive performance. Some of the retail media networks and Deliveroo media is evolving beyond performance to kind of connect more the top of the funnel for brands as well. But it also for us, it's a concern to ensure that the advertisers are measuring it well, so that they are really seeing the true value of our network versus other similar businesses in market, and the complementary performance between them as well. So your question was quite long. So
That's what I'm known for.
yeah, for me, it is a fresh it is a fresh environment that really connects consumers to unique moments in the mindset that's very close to the purchasing. But it is an area in advertising that really can do with more measurement, more with better attribution, with better understanding of bottom of the funnel versus top of the funnel, and how that plays a role in broader media plan of an agency or a CMO, for example.
And maybe I'll just add something to Lucia. So if we ask what is a retail media network, so if we unpack, so you have basically the on-site piece, which is sponsored listings, the search business model, and you can have some banners as well. So that's on-site. Then you have the off-site, which basically is extending audiences to every type of inventory. So the question is, as a brand, if I want to invest in retail media network, where should I invest? Should I do sponsored listing? Should I do displays on site? Should I do off-site? So what I'm trying to say is like this is where measurement capabilities are important, because it's not just about should I invest in retail media network, but the question is how should I do it to maximize ROI? So that's a thought that I think is critical here.
I love it. I do want to tie that back to just like how you're thinking about measurement on the retail media side. But before we go there, just because you guys are on just the workings of an RMN, like just listening back to that last conversation, just about how like LLMs are, creating this entire environment where people buy and discover products. What does that mean for like the offsite placements for retail media networks? How do you think about how AI is changing the customer journey and how you kind of fit into that?
Okay.
For both, I think you both are doing, yeah.
And so if we think, I think there are many discussions out there about, I'm sure you know, SEO, which is search engine optimization. So you optimize so that when you search on Google, you get high up in the search. But then now we're moving to this GEO, which is generative engine optimization, which is, how do I optimize my content? What is my strategy there? So that when somebody asks ChatGPT, what is the best, whatever, quote for winter, you get a specific brand versus another. So what I'm trying to say is like, clearly the LLM is disrupting the space. And I think also for retail media is going to be the same. So the point is, do I buy directly? So retail media stays as it is. Is there an agent? So clearly the complexity is exploding. And so I think it goes back to confirm measurement becomes also more important, because if you have more channels, understanding exactly where you want to invest your limited resources becomes also more important. How do you do it? Understanding the ROI of a channel, which is they're just proliferating.
Does that have any implications though for like the ad inventory on the retail media side? The LLM is the search and discovery methodology. Like, what does that mean for the advertising on the RMN?
I think there is a lot of people right now hacking around different experimentation solution and ideas. I think and I'm 5 minutes each at the job, so I can't speak for the product team, but it is an avenue for the business to really look at user experience and make sure that that they are pushing the boundaries for a better solution, leapfrogging what currently technology enables the business to do. And that's not just enhance the first entire environment and experience for consumers, leveraging the data to a much deeper level than current standard technology enables.
On the agentic shopping side, like, do you see that? For me, when I think about like ordering consumables or like last mile delivery type things, I think like that's going to be something that an AI executes on. What are the implications there for like Deliveroo, for instance?
That is a big question. I'm only 5 minutes in a day. But it goes back to the user experience, right? It's the experience of the consumer. And I think everyone in business is doing a lot to kind of be front and center.
A quick note on that one point too is what's concerning for us is everything is inputs and outputs, and what is the API going to look like for these LLMs? How much data are we going to get? Right? These models, they have to see an impression, right? It's nice to have the spend. It's nice to have some sort of like platform reported attribution, but it's coming incredibly fast. We were just up with Google in New York a couple weeks ago, and like they're having their own sort of like agentic sort of shopping profile that's going to coming down there is like, what is a Google API going to look like? And so it's all about data availability, the granularity, and then what can you do from it from there to feel more confident. So I think it's still to be determined, honestly.
Is that like a risk for an MMM? Like,
It's a good question. The more data privacy and the less data, the more valuable we get, because it's the only way of probabilistic measurement to do that, because there's no deterministic element to it, right? Now, if there's like a nice happy median between there, obviously the more data you can get, the more the models are going to feel confident, leading to the more confident a market is going to make to do that decision and therefore measure, forecast, and optimize it from there.
I would argue that, and I think we've seen that deterministic is great, but it's limited.
It's gone.
Yeah.
The past. Yeah, for sure.
You need power, and you need it's about volumes of data to help decision making.
It's the volume, and it's the variety of, like, an MMM does not going to want to see you spend the same amount of money on it. We look at the data sometime on like the saturation plots, and if they're spending the exact amount same every single day, the models are not going to be able to figure out like the differences. Couldn't agree with you more.
wow. Any questions for these guys? I hear Lucia has a appointment right after this, so I think we're over time. All right, thank you guys.